Most people think power comes from speaking louder, arguing harder, or proving a point. But the truth? Real power doesn't make noise. It watches, it listens, it chooses when and if to respond. Silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. It's the space where you think clearly, move wisely, and win quietly. The strongest people in the room are not the ones talking. They're the ones observing, calculating, and staying composed while everyone else loses control. Because silence isn't about being passive, it's about being in control. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. The world has convinced us that the loudest person wins, that whoever speaks first dominates. But that's a lie. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you've learned the art of saying nothing until it truly matters. It means you understand that your words carry weight, and not everything or everyone deserves the privilege of hearing them. When you master silence, you master self-control, and that is where real power begins. In moments of conflict, silence becomes your shield. When emotions rise, when people throw words like knives, your calm presence disarms them. They expect you to react, to match their chaos. But you don't. You stand steady. You let the noise burn itself out. That's what strategy looks like. Because when you respond out of emotion, you give away your control. But when you choose silence, you keep it. You're not losing. You're letting them reveal themselves while you stay grounded in strength. Silence gives you time. Time to think, to observe, to understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Most people listen to reply. You listen to see. You pick up what others miss, the tone, the fear, the hidden insecurity behind their words. You start to understand that people speak not to communicate, but to convince. And that's when silence becomes your advantage. It's not about ignoring others. It's about positioning yourself above the noise. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. There's a calm kind of dominance that silence brings. You walk into a room and don't rush to fill the space with words. You let others talk, boast, and reveal. And when you finally do speak, every word lands heavier. People pay attention, not because you demanded it, but because your silence already commanded it. That's the difference between power and performance. One needs attention, the other creates it effortlessly. Silence also protects your energy. Every argument, every unnecessary conversation drains something from you. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand, you start reclaiming that energy. You start building peace inside. You realize you don't need to fight every battle. Some are designed only to distract you. You learn that walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've evolved beyond needing validation. True strength is quiet. It doesn't need to prove, to shout, to win every debate. It just is. When you move with silence, you're not avoiding confrontation. You're mastering it. You're showing that your control over yourself is greater than anyone's control over you. That's real power. Because silence doesn't mean you've surrendered the fight. It means you've already won it, without lifting a single word. Not every battle deserves your energy. The truth is, most of the fights people try to pull you into are not worth your time, your peace, or your attention. Some people argue just to feel significant. They want your reaction because your reaction gives them relevance. The moment you respond, they've won a piece of your focus, your calm, your power. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. Sometimes, silence and distance are the strongest responses you can give. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It proves that you're disciplined enough to protect your energy. There will be moments when people will misunderstand you, judge you, or even attack you for no reason. Your instinct might be to defend yourself, to explain your intentions, to make them see your side. But you owe that explanation to no one. When you start explaining your worth to people determined not to understand, you give them control over your emotions. You begin to perform for their approval instead of living by your purpose. The strongest people know when to stay silent, when to conserve their strength, and when to simply let others talk themselves into exhaustion. Winning isn't always about conquering others. Sometimes it's about mastering yourself, your impulses, your emotions, your need to be right. There's a calm victory in walking away with your integrity intact. You don't need to prove a point when you already know your value. Some battles are designed to pull you off your path, to drain the very energy you need for your growth. When you engage in every fight, you start fighting for attention instead of fighting for your future. Choose wisely where you place your energy, because energy spent on nonsense is energy taken away from your purpose. Silence in the face of provocation isn't avoidance, it's awareness. It's knowing that your peace is worth more than your pride. You can't control how others behave, but you can control what you respond to. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every challenge deserves your presence. When you learn to stay calm while others lose their composure, you become unshakable. You begin to understand that emotional intelligence is not about suppressing feelings. It's about directing them toward what truly matters. The world will always try to provoke a reaction from you. People will test your patience, question your intentions, and attempt to pull you into chaos. But your silence, your decision not to engage, is your greatest power. You win not by fighting harder, but by refusing to fight battles beneath you. You win by walking away from noise that cannot reach your level. There is peace in knowing that you don't have to attend every war to prove you're a warrior. Sometimes the quietest move, the step back, the deep breath, the silent exit, is the one that secures the greatest victory. Control is built in quiet. The louder the world gets, the more valuable stillness becomes. When you learn to stay quiet, you start to notice what others don't. You begin to hear the small things, the shift in someone's tone, the hesitation in their words, the look in their eyes that says more than their voice ever could. Silence sharpens your instincts. It turns you into an observer instead of a reactor. When everyone else rushes to speak, to defend, to be seen, you wait, you watch, you gather information. That's what real control looks like. It's not about overpowering others, it's about mastering your own response. When you're silent, you give yourself space to think. Most people react before they even understand what's happening. They speak out of emotion and regret it later. But silence teaches patience. It gives your mind room to breathe before your mouth moves. You start to respond with clarity instead of confusion. You stop saying things just to fill the air. You start choosing your words like a craftsman chooses his tools, carefully, intentionally, with purpose. Because once you speak, you can't take it back. And silence? Silence can't be misquoted. There's a discipline that comes with quiet observation. When you don't rush to interrupt, when you let others show who they are, you begin to see patterns. People reveal their character when they think no one's really listening. In silence, you pick up truths hidden between their words. You notice how someone treats you when they don't need anything from you. You notice how people react when you don't react. That's when you learn who's genuine and who's performing. That's the gift of quiet. You start seeing through the noise, through the masks, through the pretense. Control isn't about having power over others. It's about having mastery over yourself. You can't control what others say, but you can control what you give attention to. You can't control what comes your way, but you can control how you carry yourself through it. Quiet doesn't mean passive, it means intentional. You choose not to be pulled by impulse, not to be driven by chaos. You stay grounded when others lose balance. You become the calm in every storm. That calmness isn't weakness, it's command. In a world that rewards reaction, silence becomes your rebellion. When people expect you to explode and you don't, you confuse them. You take away their control. They realize they can't manipulate you, can't break your focus, can't touch your peace. That's real strength, staying composed when everything around you demands a reaction. Control is not about force, it's about awareness. It's about seeing the whole board when everyone else is staring at a single move. And that awareness, that clarity, only comes in quiet. Because silence isn't empty, it's full of understanding. It's where power gathers before it speaks. People reveal themselves when you say nothing. The moment you stop talking, something interesting happens. Others start to fill the silence. They begin to speak more, to explain more, to justify, to overshare. Silence makes people uncomfortable, and in that discomfort, they show you who they really are. You don't have to interrogate anyone. All you have to do is stay quiet and observe. Human nature has a way of exposing itself when it feels unseen. People will tell you everything if you give them enough space to do it. And that's the power of silence. It doesn't demand truth, it draws it out naturally. When you say nothing, you allow people's actions and words to separate themselves. You begin to notice the inconsistencies. The person who preaches loyalty but can't stop gossiping about others. The one who swears they're calm but explodes at the slightest challenge. The one who speaks of humility but needs constant praise. Silence gives them the room to reveal these contradictions. You don't need to call them out. You just need to watch. The truth always finds a way out when words start to flow unchecked. And by staying silent, you give truth the space to walk into the room on its own. In conversations, most people listen to respond, not to understand. But when you stay quiet, you do the opposite. You listen to learn. You start hearing what's not being said. The pauses, the nervous laughter, the sudden defensiveness, these things speak louder than any sentence. Silence allows you to see beyond what someone wants you to believe. It teaches you to trust patterns instead of promises. Over time, you realize that words can lie, but energy never does. The tone, the posture, the way someone looks at you when you're silent, those are all confessions in disguise. Silence also reveals intent. When you stop giving constant feedback, you see who continues to show up and who only moves when they're being watched. You see who respects your boundaries without you having to repeat them. You see who tries to provoke you just to test your reaction. Silence exposes manipulation faster than confrontation ever could. Because when you don't play the game, people show how desperate they are for you to engage. That desperation is truth. That's your clarity. The beautiful thing about silence is that it never lies. It doesn't distort. It doesn't dramatize. It simply allows reality to unfold. When you learn to sit still and let people reveal themselves, you stop chasing explanations. You stop arguing for your perspective. You realize that time and silence are the best truth tellers. The people meant for you will find comfort in your quiet. The ones who are threatened by it will try to break it. Either way, you win. Because silence doesn't just protect your peace, it gives you vision. And that vision shows you who belongs in your life and who never did. Silence protects your peace and your progress. In a world that constantly demands a reaction, staying silent becomes your form of self-defense. Every time you choose not to respond to negativity, gossip, or provocation, you're protecting your mental space. You're saying, my peace is more valuable than proving a point, because every reaction costs something: your energy, your time, your focus. And once those are spent, they don't return easily. Silence is how you save that energy for what truly matters. It's not avoidance, it's prioritization. You can't build something meaningful while you're busy reacting to everything meaningless. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you stop explaining yourself to everyone. When you stop defending your choices to people who will never understand your vision, you start to breathe differently. You realize that peace isn't about the absence of problems, it's about the absence of noise. When you're constantly explaining, debating, or defending, you scatter your strength in every direction. Silence gathers it back. It brings you home to yourself. It lets you focus on your goals instead of other people's opinions. People often mistake silence for weakness, but it takes tremendous strength to stay calm when others are trying to shake you. Anyone can react. It takes real discipline to stay composed. When you don't respond to insults or negativity, you're not letting anyone walk over you. You're showing that their words don't carry enough weight to reach your peace. You learn that not every action deserves a reaction, not every comment deserves an answer, and not every situation deserves your voice. Your peace is the foundation of your progress, and silence is how you protect it. Progress demands focus, and focus requires stillness. You can't hear your intuition when you're surrounded by noise. You can't move forward when you're caught in cycles of arguing, proving, or defending. Silence gives you the clarity to see where you're headed and what deserves your attention. When you stay quiet, your mind starts working differently. You start thinking long-term instead of emotionally. You begin to understand that success is not built by reacting, it's built by acting intentionally. Silence gives you the pause you need before every move, ensuring that when you finally speak or act, it's with precision and purpose. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. They'll call it arrogance, indifference, or pride. Let them. You don't need to correct their perception when you're living your truth. The noise around you will always try to break your rhythm, but your calm is your protection. Silence becomes your shield and your strategy. It keeps you steady when everything around you is chaotic. Because when your peace is intact, your progress is unstoppable. And that's the irony. While others waste energy trying to be heard, you're quietly moving forward, building, growing, and winning. Not loudly, not dramatically, but powerfully and in complete peace. Maturity means not proving your point every time. It's a lesson most people learn too late, if they ever learn it at all. We live in a world obsessed with being heard, with proving ourselves, with constantly defending our choices and our worth. But maturity is understanding that not every situation, not every person, not every argument deserves your energy. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. It's in choosing to stand tall quietly, without validation, without the need for recognition. Real strength is not in insisting others see your perspective. It's in knowing your perspective matters even if no one else acknowledges it. You don't have to defend your value to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Some people will never understand your decisions, your priorities, or the way you navigate your life. They will twist your intentions, misinterpret your actions, and judge you based on their own insecurities. Trying to convince them otherwise is like shouting into a storm. You expend energy, but the storm doesn't calm. Maturity is knowing when to step back, when to let their misunderstanding exist without letting it disturb your peace. You protect your calm by choosing your battles, and you protect your growth by focusing on the people and situations that actually deserve your attention. Let your actions speak in rooms where your words are not respected. Words are fleeting, easily dismissed or forgotten, but actions leave a mark. When you act with integrity, discipline, and focus, the results speak for themselves. You don't need to announce your victories or justify your methods. Those who pay attention will notice. Those who don't matter. Maturity is trusting that what you do carries more weight than what you say, and that the impact of consistent effort outlasts the loud declarations of others. People may question you, underestimate you, or even try to provoke you, but your actions will silently tell the story of your strength, your intelligence, and your discipline. There's a freedom in not proving yourself constantly. It liberates you from the trap of external approval and allows you to operate with intention. When you're not busy convincing everyone else of your worth, you have more energy for your goals, more clarity for your choices, and more space to cultivate self-respect. Maturity is understanding that your value isn't dictated by who notices it or who agrees with it. It exists independently. The more you rely on external validation, the more you give your power away. The more you act with quiet confidence, the stronger you become. Ultimately, maturity is about choosing wisdom over ego. It's about knowing when silence will achieve more than argument ever could. It's about letting results replace explanations and trust replace the need for approval. Every time you resist proving yourself unnecessarily, you assert control over your own life. You create a life governed by intention rather than reaction. You show that you are above the noise, above the chaos, and above the need to justify your existence to anyone but yourself. In that space, you are not only respected, you are unstoppable. Quiet confidence is louder than noise. There is a power in moving through the world without shouting, without demanding attention, without insisting that people notice your worth. The loudest voices often draw the most eyes, but they rarely draw respect. Quiet confidence doesn't need applause, it doesn't need recognition, and it doesn't seek validation. It exists in the way you carry yourself, in the calm certainty of your decisions, and in the unshakable belief in your own abilities. People sense it immediately, even if they can't put it into words. There's a gravity to someone who knows their value without broadcasting it, a force that pulls others in and commands respect without a single raised voice. When you move with quiet confidence, you create an aura of control. Others may try to test you, provoke you, or challenge you, but your calmness shields you. You are not reacting to their energy because your energy is self-contained. You don't have to argue to assert your authority. You don't have to explain to prove your intelligence. Every step you take, every decision you make communicates your capability. People notice your presence long before they hear your words. That silent strength inspires trust because it is consistent, unwavering, and unpretentious. Noise can convince for a moment, but it fades. Quiet confidence endures. There is a difference between speaking loudly and being heard. Loudness draws attention, but quiet confidence draws understanding. When you operate from a place of calm assurance, your actions become the evidence of your worth. Others start to notice your results, your composure, and the respect you command naturally. They realize that you do not need their approval to validate yourself. That realization is more powerful than any argument could be, more lasting than any performance of strength. People respond to confidence they feel rather than confidence they are told exists. Quiet confidence also allows you to navigate challenges with clarity. When you are not distracted by the need to prove yourself or dominate the room with words, your focus is sharper. You see opportunities others overlook. You make decisions with precision, and you avoid unnecessary conflict. In contrast, those who rely on noise often misstep, overextend, or exhaust themselves. Your calm assurance becomes a strategy in itself. People follow you not because they are compelled by theatrics, but because they are drawn to your certainty and clarity. Perhaps the greatest gift of quiet confidence is the peace it brings. You no longer seek validation from others because you trust yourself completely. You are not swayed by criticism, flustered by judgment, or distracted by the chaos around you. You move with purpose, act with intention, and influence without force. In a world obsessed with volume, quiet confidence is revolutionary. It is the strength that does not shout, the authority that does not command, and the presence that does not demand. It simply is, and in its simplicity, it is undeniable, powerful, and enduring. Emotional control is your silent weapon. In a world that constantly pressures you to react, to argue, to show your feelings openly, mastering your emotions gives you an invisible power that no one can touch. The loudest person in the room often believes that volume equals strength, but the truth is usually the opposite. Those who shout the most are frequently the ones most threatened, most uncertain, most desperate for attention. True strength is quiet, measured, and self-contained. When you control your emotions, you take away the leverage others think they have over you. You create a space where you are untouchable because no one can manipulate what they cannot see. The first step to using emotional control as a weapon is awareness. You must recognize the triggers that make you want to react: anger, frustration, jealousy, fear, and understand why they affect you. Most people let these emotions dictate their words and actions. They respond impulsively and later regret the damage done. When you pause, even for a moment, to recognize your feelings without surrendering to them, you reclaim power over the situation. That pause may seem small, but it is the difference between chaos and strategy. Emotional control allows you to act intentionally instead of reacting reflexively. When someone attempts to provoke you, your response, or lack thereof, shapes the outcome. By remaining calm, you observe the situation with clarity. You see motivations, weaknesses, and patterns that others miss when they act on impulse. Silence in these moments is not passivity. It is deliberate presence. It signals that you are not rattled, that your mind and body are not instruments of their chaos. Others may grow louder, more aggressive, or desperate, but your stillness becomes a mirror that reflects their instability. Your emotions are your currency, and when you control them, you protect your wealth. Every outburst, every uncontrolled reaction diminishes your influence. When you maintain composure, your words and actions carry more weight. People notice the calm in someone who does not react immediately. They respect restraint because it implies mastery, not weakness. Emotional control communicates strength without a single boast or confrontation. You do not need to prove yourself because your inner victory is already evident to those who are watching closely. Perhaps the greatest power of emotional control is the freedom it brings. You are no longer chained to the opinions, actions, or provocations of others. You move through conflict with precision, and you choose the battles that truly matter. You remain unshaken by attempts to destabilize you because you know that losing control is the only true loss. In this way, emotional control is not just a skill, it is a shield, a weapon, and a statement of dominance that requires no noise. Silence shows the world you have already won inside, and that is a victory no one can ever take from you. Silence teaches self-discipline in a way that words never can. When you learn to stay quiet in moments where every instinct tells you to react, you are training yourself to rise above impulse. Most people are slaves to the immediate, the sharp insult, the unfair accusation, the challenge to their ego. They react before they think, and in that reaction, they lose control of both themselves and the situation. Silence is a practice in restraint. It forces you to pause, to breathe, and to decide whether a response will serve your purpose or merely satisfy a fleeting emotion. In that pause lies the power to choose not just what you say, but who you are in the face of chaos. Self-discipline through silence is not easy because it requires a mastery over the most stubborn parts of your mind. Your brain is designed to seek immediate resolution, to assert dominance, to demand acknowledgement. Choosing silence instead of the obvious reaction feels unnatural at first. You will feel tension, the pull of impatience, and the desire to justify yourself. But each time you resist, each time you hold your tongue while observing, you strengthen your inner control. You begin to understand that life is not won in moments of impulsive reaction, but in measured, intentional decisions made from a place of clarity. When you embrace silence as a tool for self-discipline, you start noticing patterns in yourself and in others. You see which situations demand your energy and which are distractions. You see which people are testing you for their own amusement and which are worth your engagement. This clarity comes from observation rather than chatter, from listening rather than arguing. Every moment of restraint builds a foundation of patience, focus, and strategic thinking. It is through this quiet practice that you stop being swept away by circumstances and start orchestrating your life with purpose. The beauty of self-discipline through silence is that it transforms conflict into opportunity. When someone tries to provoke you, your calmness becomes a mirror, reflecting back their agitation and stripping them of power. By not reacting immediately, you gain insight into motives, intentions, and weaknesses. You are no longer a participant in chaos. You are an observer, a strategist, a master of your own narrative. Every withheld word, every pause, every deliberate choice reinforces your ability to act with precision rather than emotion. Over time, silence reshapes not just your behavior, but your character. It teaches you that you are stronger than any insult, more resilient than any provocation, and more powerful than the noise around you. You stop being controlled by the urgency of the moment, by the need for recognition, or by the chaos others create. Instead, you control the moment. You decide when to speak, when to act, and when to remain still. That is the essence of self-discipline, choosing mastery over reaction, purpose over impulse, and peace over unnecessary conflict. In silence, you find not emptiness, but the quiet forge of your strength. Let silence build your legacy. Words are fleeting, applause is temporary, and attention is a currency that evaporates quickly. What lasts is presence, action, and the quiet influence you leave behind. Great leaders, warriors, and thinkers understood this instinctively. They knew that speaking less, observing more, and acting intentionally creates an imprint far deeper than any loud proclamation ever could. Legacy is not about being the loudest in the room. It is about being remembered for the impact you made, for the values you embodied, and for the calm authority you carried that inspired others without demanding recognition. When you allow silence to guide your life, your actions gain weight. Every decision, every gesture, every step is amplified because it comes from a place of purpose rather than noise. People notice consistency more than commentary, results more than promises. Silence gives you the space to focus on what truly matters: your craft, your integrity, and your contribution. The quieter you operate with intention, the more profound your influence becomes. You begin to understand that a legacy is not built through constant explanation or endless justification. It is built through measured choices, disciplined action, and a presence that endures beyond words. Silence also allows your legacy to be authentic. When you are not constantly reacting to the chaos around you or seeking approval from others, your actions become pure. They reflect your principles, not the fleeting opinions of those around you. People are drawn to authenticity, and authenticity has a way of resonating long after you are gone. Your quiet presence can inspire, guide, and shape others in ways that no speech or argument ever could. A well-lived life whispers influence. It does not scream for attention. The power of silence in building a legacy also lies in its ability to withstand time. Noise fades, trends vanish, arguments are forgotten. But the impression of a composed, disciplined, and intentional life endures. When you live with restraint, your actions carry a subtle authority. People remember how you made them feel, how you inspired confidence without demanding it, and how your calm in moments of crisis set a standard for others to follow. That memory of presence is stronger than any spoken accolade. It becomes your true inheritance. Ultimately, letting silence build your legacy is about understanding that the world will not always notice your worth in the moment, and that is acceptable. Your life's impact is measured not by applause, but by the difference you quietly make. You win not by reacting, boasting, or asserting constantly. You win by showing up consistently, by living with integrity, and by allowing your silence to speak volumes long after you have stepped away. In the end, your legacy is not what you say, it is what you do, the calm strength you exhibit, and the enduring influence of a life lived with intention. Silence, when used wisely, becomes the voice of your eternal presence.